Welcome to the Southwest Desert, the channel that explores the mysteries and tales of the American Southwest. Today, we're delving into the fascinating story of Jack Stewart and his legendary Ace in the Hole, a lost gold ledge in the heart of Death Valley. Our story begins in Darwin, California, on May 16, 1947. On this day, Jack Stewart, one of the last of the old-time borough prospectors, passed away. With his death, a chapter in the history of Death Valley prospecting came to a close, but not without leaving behind a tantalizing mystery that continues to captivate treasure hunters and history buffs alike. Jack Stewart was no ordinary prospector. He had spent more than half a century chasing rainbows in the Death Valley region, a harsh and unforgiving landscape that has claimed the lives of many less hardy souls. Over the years, Jack had made enough strikes to ensure that when increasing blindness finally barred him from the old trails, he had money in the bank and income from mining claims to keep him comfortable. But there was one ledge upon which Jack had never filed. He called it his Ace in the Hole, and just a few days before he died, he shared the secret of this lost ledge with a friend. This friend, who wished to remain anonymous, later recounted the story, adding another chapter to the lore of lost mines in Death Valley. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman, Alan. Please leave a like, comment, share. If you would like to support my videos and my time, please hit the heart-shaped super thanks button. This is very helpful. For further desert adventures, hit the subscribe button. Before we dive into the tale of the lost ledge, let's take a moment to understand who Jack Stewart was. Jack was more than just a prospector. He was a walking encyclopedia of the desert. He knew the Death Valley region like the back of his hand, not just its minerals and potential riches, but its very essence. Jack could speak at length about the origin of the desert, its flora and fauna, and the boom towns that had sprung up and died away during his time there. He had been present for much of the region's modern history, witnessing firsthand the ebb and flow of fortune seekers and the transformation of the landscape. Despite the harsh life of a desert prospector, Jack was an educated man and a gifted storyteller. Those who knew him described him as a great talker, someone whose words could paint vivid pictures of the desert's past and present. His knowledge wasn't just confined to geology and mining. He had a holistic understanding of the desert ecosystem and its history. In his later years, as his eyesight began to fail, Jack's sharp mind and vivid memories became his most valuable assets. Even when he was nearly blind, his recollections of the desert remained crystal clear, allowing him to guide others to mineral deposits and gem rocks he had discovered decades earlier. Just a week before Jack Stewart passed away, he had a visitor, the friend who would later share this story. This friend, on his way to Nevada to search for some crystals Jack had told him about, stopped by Jack's cabin in Darwin for a chat. Despite his failing health, Jack welcomed his friend warmly. Perhaps sensing that his time was short, Jack decided to share a secret he had kept for years. He told his friend about his Ace in the Hole, a rich gold deposit he had discovered but never filed a claim on. Jack explained that if anything had ever gone wrong for him financially, he could have taken a few pack mules to this secret location and brought out a fortune in just a few days. The fact that he had never needed to use this backup plan speaks volumes about Jack's success as a prospector and his ability to navigate the boom and bust cycles of desert mining. The story of Jack's discovery takes us back to 1897, a time when Death Valley was still a frontier, largely unexplored and full of potential riches. Jack had been prospecting around the northern end of Death Valley, in an area near what is now known as Death Valley Scotty's Castle in Grapevine Canyon. With his supplies running low, Jack decided to head for Olancha, a small town to the west of Death Valley. The usual trail would have taken him down Death Valley to Stovepipe Wells, then up Emigrant Wash and through Town Pass, now known as Townsend Pass. However, As Jack neared Stovepipe Wells, he noticed storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Realizing he couldn't outrun the impending cloudburst, Jack made a crucial decision. Instead of pushing on to Stovepipe Wells, he turned his burrows into a promising-looking wash that led into the Panamint Mountains, the great chain that forms Death Valley's western boundary. As the storm clouds grew more threatening, Jack searched for shelter. He managed to find some high ground protected by cliffs just before the rain began to fall. What followed was a wet and miserable night as the storm developed into a full-blown cloudburst. By daylight, the storm had passed, leaving behind scattered pools of water. Jack, ever the resourceful prospector, took advantage of this unexpected bounty to fill his canteens. This newfound water supply gave him the freedom to explore further into the Panamints instead of returning to the valley floor. As Jack and his burros made their way up the canyon, they encountered a fresh landslide near the canyon's head. The cloudburst had carved a channel through the slide, which Jack and his burros followed. It was here, in this newly exposed cut, that Jack made his extraordinary discovery. Scattered in the bottom of the wash were pieces of quartz, but not just any quartz. These fragments were shot through with gold. Jack, recognizing the significance of his find, collected all the loose pieces of ore he could find. He reasoned that the landslide must have carried the quartz into the wash from its source somewhere above. Despite his excitement, Jack was faced with a dilemma. His food and water supplies were running low, forcing him to continue on to Olancha. He left the canyon with the intention of returning immediately, but as often happens in the world of prospecting, other promising projects arose, delaying his return. It wasn't until 1902, 5 years after his initial discovery, that Jack Stewart finally made his way back to the canyon. He set up camp and began a thorough search for the source of the golden quartz he had found in the wash. During this search, Jack did manage to find a small, rich outcropping of gold ore. However, this wasn't the mother lode he was looking for. It wasn't the source of the golden quartz he had found in the wash 5 years earlier. Once again, with his supplies running low, Jack was forced to break camp and leave the canyon. Remarkably, despite his intention to return, Jack Stewart never made it back to that particular canyon in the Panamints. The life of a prospector is often guided by new strikes and interesting leads, and Jack's was no exception. The need for his ace in the hole never materialized, and the exact location of the rich gold deposit remained his secret. In his last days, Jack Stewart seemed eager to pass on the knowledge of his secret gold ledge. He told his friend, "The stuff is there, and plenty of it." He even proposed a plan to locate the canyon together, offering to split the find 50-50. Jack's confidence in his memory was evident. He told his friend that if he could find some crystals in Nevada based on Jack's directions, it would prove that his recollection of locations was still accurate. The friend did indeed find the crystals exactly where Jack said they would be, lending credibility to Jack's story about the lost gold ledge. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. By the time the friend returned from his successful crystal hunting trip to Nevada, Jack Stewart had passed away. With him died the precise knowledge of where to find his ace in the hole. Today, the exact location of Jack Stewart's lost ledge remains a mystery. We know it must be on the Death Valley side of the Panamint Mountains, and probably not too far from Stovepipe Wells, since that's where Jack had originally planned to camp on that fateful night in 1897. The Panamint Mountains, however, are vast and riddled with countless canyons. Without more specific information, pinpointing the location of Jack's discovery is a daunting task. The friend who shared this story admitted that he hadn't searched for the canyon himself, being more interested in crystals and polishing rocks. However, he was certain that Jack Stewart had told him the truth. He had been able to verify other stories Jack had told, finding them accurate in every detail. Jack Stewart's story is more than just a tale of a lost gold ledge. It's a window into the life of a Death Valley prospector during a pivotal time in the region's history. Jack's life spanned the transition from the wild, unexplored frontier of the late 19th century to the more settled but still rugged Death Valley of the mid-20th century. His story reminds us of the hardships faced by these early prospectors. They battled not just the harsh desert environment, but also the limitations of transportation and technology of their time. Jack's decision not to file claims on many of the mineral deposits he found was largely due to the difficulty and expense of transporting ore through the desert in those days. The story of the Lost Ledge itself is a classic example of the lost mine tales that are so prevalent in the lore of the American West. These stories capture our imagination, hinting at untold riches just waiting to be rediscovered. They speak to the human desire for adventure and the promise of sudden wealth. But perhaps the most valuable legacy Jack Stewart left behind was his deep knowledge and understanding of the Death Valley region. He was more than just a prospector. He was a keen observer of the desert, its geology, its ecosystems, and its history. His ability to read the landscape and remember locations decades later speaks to a profound connection with the land that few today can match. Jack Stewart's story is a reminder of the unique individuals who shaped the history of places like Death Valley. These were men and women of remarkable resilience, knowledge, and character. They faced unimaginable hardships in their quest for riches, but along the way, many of them, like Jack, developed a deep and abiding love for the desert landscape. As we ponder the mystery of Jack Stewart's Lost Ledge, perhaps we can take a moment to appreciate the real treasure he left behind, a lifetime of knowledge about one of America's most fascinating and challenging landscapes. And who knows? Perhaps someday, a hiker or a modern-day prospector might stumble upon a quartz outcropping shot through with gold in a remote Panamint Canyon. If they do, they may well have Jack Stewart to thank for one last gift to the annals of Death Valley lore. This has been the Southwest Desert. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Death Valley's mining history. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering, and always be ready for the unexpected. The desert, like Jack Stewart's memory, holds many secrets yet to be revealed. Please leave a like, comment, and share. For further desert romps, hit the subscribe button. Happy trails! If you would like to support my videos and my time, please hit the heart-shaped super thanks button on the bottom of the video. This is very helpful.